Here are a few times when animals have taken over the local neighborhood. Number 9. Bamboo strikes again. Imagine having kids and also a giant 6-foot lizard in your backyard. Yeah, not a pretty sight. An Asian water monitor nicknamed Bamboo was found in a South Florida neighborhood by the Lieberman family back in late summer of 2018. At first, the family thought it was an alligator because it was so massive, but then he flicked his skinny forked tongue. Much to the family's horror, Bamboo didn't appear to be afraid of people. Like most non-native reptiles throughout Florida, the Asian water monitor is an invasive species introduced to the area by people who kept them as pets and released them into the wild when they became too much to handle. These gigantic lizards have been breeding throughout Florida and are an amphibious menace to many native animals. Apparently, Bamboo was someone's pet, but the owner just wasn't responsible enough to keep Bamboo in control. The 6-foot, 100-pound lizard has been going around the neighborhood, thwarting all attempts of capture for weeks. Asian water monitors are a breed of gargantuan lizard native to Southeast Asia. They have an outstanding sense of smell, and have even been used in Asia for missing persons and death investigations. Water monitors typically feast on rodents, birds, and eggs. Theoretically, Bamboo could eat a small dog. Number 8. Goose attack. We often see geese depicted as symbols of elegance and peace, but they can be your worst nightmare. A Canada goose deciding to unleash a surprise attack on a high school golfer in Michigan is a prime example of the testy relationship between man and fowl. Canadian geese rest on ground ponds, which are mostly found in parks and on recreational grounds such as golf courses. Nesting so close to humans means that interaction is inevitable. When we sometimes venture into their territory, that means the geese just might retaliate. Male Canadian geese are most likely to attack those that get too close to their mates, eggs, or hatchlings. Their methods of attack include biting or whacking someone with their wings. Males can weigh anywhere from 7 to 14 pounds and have a wingspan of 4 to 6 feet. Years of interactions with humans have allowed these animals to become less fearful, thus making interaction more common. And that's why one particular goose went after a Michigan high school golfer in his purple pullover. Number 7. Snakes in a library. Imagine just relaxing and reading at your public library, and all of a sudden, noticing a snake slithering past your feet. You would think you'd be safe from snakes in a library in the middle of a city, but apparently not. Back in 2018, a DC public library branch was briefly closed when snakes were found having a meeting in the basement. Although this sounds like it could be an awesome premise for a Snakes on a Plane sequel, Samuel L. actually wasn't a part of this. A staff member found a live snake in the library, and obviously wasn't that impressed nor surprised, because he captured it and released it outside. However, hours later, a different library employee spotted 2 new snakes in the downstairs area of the building. The library called pest control and shut down the building until the all clear was given. Snakes often find themselves inside by accident while searching for a place to nest. Depending on their size, they can slither in through gaps in doors or vents, and possibly stay long term. It's unclear how the snakes got into the library, but the next time there's another gathering of snakes, they're gonna have to be invited. Number 6. Raccoons in Central Park. Who doesn't like a little crew of raccoons? When you're in Central Park in New York, you may be able to meet them. An estimated 22 raccoons live in the southern end of the park by the pond, and they're not afraid to be approached by any New Yorkers posing as raccoon paparazzi. However, we definitely don't recommend feeding any wild animals anywhere. Pictures from a safe distance? Why not? Every night back in 2016, the raccoons emerge and prowl the path leading to 59th Street, waiting for visitors to leave them food in exchange for a photo or video. From what we can tell, these guys are well fed. The raccoons of Central Park had become something of a tourist attraction, with unofficial visiting hours every night. Raccoons are known to live in urban areas, but they're traditionally more likely to be found eating from a garbage can than a tourist's hand. Although feeding animals isn't illegal, it's not the smart thing to do. Not only is approaching potentially rabid creatures dangerous, It can interfere with the natural wildlife in Central Park. Being fed a steady diet of tourist leftovers can alter animals' natural behavior patterns and eventually put them at greater risk. Number 5. Deer friends. It's not really uncommon to see wildlife when you're driving along the road. However, it's another thing when they come into a store and act like they own the place. At a store inside an RV park in Fort Collins, Colorado, a deer actually went inside to shop around. The doe decided to stroll in as if she actually had some shopping to do on her own. Shopkeeper Lori Jones assumed that the deer had lost her way, and she was able to lure the doe back outside to the field with peanut butter. However, she was in for another surprise later on that day. The doe had actually returned to the shop, not just by herself, but along with her 3 kids. Apparently her kids were just standing in the doorway like, "Can we come in too?" She was able to successfully lure the mama deer and her kids back towards the field with another peanut butter bar again. Once the deer were back in the safety of their field, the shopkeeper clapped her hands and bam, just like magic, they returned to the forest. Well, at least for that day. Usually you have to go looking for animals, but on this special day, the wildlife came looking for fun themselves. Number 4. Cat on tape. Mountain lions, panthers, cougars, or whatever you want to call them, were completely driven out of Mississippi over 100 years ago. However, even with that bit of news, people still have reported sightings all over Mississippi. The presence of mountain lions has yet to be confirmed in the state. Back in 2017, a cat captured on video near a Wendy's back in Hernando, Mississippi, has many people thinking that the big cats are back in Mississippi. However, most biologists credit these big cat sightings to misidentification, released exotic pets, or animals passing through places such as Texas, where these big cats still live. The video was viewed by a biologist from the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. He concluded that the video was just a common house cat. We're not too convinced that it's just a regular cat. What do you guys think? Mountain lions or cougars are large cats that can weigh between 140 and 220 pounds and can run as fast as 50 miles per hour. We're not saying that's the size of the cat on the video, but it definitely looks a lot bigger than just a regular house cat. Number 3. Snake versus pigeon. Snakes are common pets these days. They're all over the place. They can be seen in people's homes or hanging around people's necks at some show, for example. But who would think you'd see one scarfing down a pigeon on your daily walk? This is what people in London got to see on the street back in the summer of 2018. A boa constrictor, thought to be an abandoned pet, was seen on the sidewalk in London, with its jaws opened and wrapped around a pigeon. We're guessing it was because the snake was looking for lunch that day. Spectators say it seemed as if someone had found a pigeon and gave it to the hungry boa. Feeding a wild animal, especially a snake, obviously isn't something smart to do. The incident was filmed by spectators and shared more than 4,000 times on multiple media outlets. The snake was later removed by an RSPCA inspector and taken to a wildlife center where they were trying to find out how the boa made it to the street. It's becoming more common for exotic pets, such as boas, to be abandoned by their owners, for reasons ranging from money to simply not wanting such a large responsibility. Who are these people and why'd they get pets in the first place? Number 2. Birds of Brooklyn. Residents of Brooklyn cry foul. Brooklyn residents have said they're afraid to leave their homes, and it isn't because of crime. 2 red-tailed hawks had aggressively terrorized people in the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood in Brooklyn back in 2014. The hawks chose to make a home on the 6th floor fire escape, and also decided to harass residents up and down the block. Because red-tailed hawks are actually protected under federal and state law, the nest couldn't be disturbed. Because of the stories of the red-tailed hawks attacking and scratching people, many residents had actually decided not to walk down Gates Ave. Imagine walking outside on a beautiful day, only to be the victim of a flyby scratching or pecking by a giant bird in the middle of New York City. Red-tailed hawks have a wingspan of up to almost 5 feet. It was roughly around 2004 that a red-tailed hawk called Pale Male became a media sensation after taking up residence on 5th Avenue, across from Central Park. There are now more than a dozen red-tailed hawk nests in Manhattan alone. How pesky do you guys think birds are in New York City? Let us know in the comments section. Number 1. Coyote Ugly. When we think of Chicago, we think of tall skyscrapers, big sidewalks, and the bears. However, coyotes are definitely something that wouldn't make the list. It's estimated that more than 4,000 coyotes make a comfortable living in the Chicago metropolitan area. Based on research, the coyote population in the area has about doubled since 2005. Researchers chalk that growth to two factors: high survivability and high reproductive rates. Downtown coyotes, which roam among the towers and traffic of the Chicago Loop, thrive in the city by hunting enough small rodents to feed themselves and their young. Some urban coyotes have even been spotted crossing streets in busy traffic at the light, looking both ways, just like human Chicagoans. It's reasonable to assume that coyotes are moving to the city because they're being displaced by habitat destruction. But that's only part of the explanation. One of the biggest factors is actually because of successful conservation efforts. Humans pose the only real threat to coyotes in the city, and since Chicago doesn't allow hunting or trapping coyotes, their population continues to grow. Here's what's next.